Thanks for attending here today. This is Joe Shannahan from VoIP Supply, and happy to be co-hosting this webinar here today with Abdel from Grandstream. And we're going to be talking about the GDS3710, a little bit about VoIP Supply. Some of you may know this already. We've been around since about 2002, thousands and thousands of customers worldwide, and we're located in Amherst, New York, which is just outside Buffalo. And Abdel will be coming to us from the Boston area. And you'll see our picture there. We've got about 30 employees here. Some of you might be interested in our partner program, which is, we've got a lot of different aspects to our partner program. We've got a rental program that you can use to provide to your customers, allow them to rent the equipment as well as your services. We also do hardware and provisioning for many of the service providers nationwide. We've got a team of experts here that have been here for quite a few years. I myself have been here for about 13 years. We have our CloudSpan marketplace, which allows our customers to shop different service providers, find the best one that suits their needs. And then also with our resellers, they can earn residual income and receive discounts on hardware based on volume and things like that. Again, with our fulfillment services, we have many of our service provider customers that we fulfill their orders, ship them out to their customers nationwide, and customer basically plugs it in and away they go. We also deal with refresh and reclaim, which is our refurbished department. We both buy and sell used equipment. So if that's something you're interested in, I could certainly work with you on that. And we have a partner program, or I'm sorry, a partner portal that our resellers can utilize, and we have a wealth of marketing materials there, email templates, things like that, that our partners can use to send out to their customers, market their business, and close more deals. A little bit about why it's advantageous to become one of our reseller partners and resell hosted services. Again, those monthly recurring goals, you receive discounts. We do pay the highest commissions in the industry. There's various spiffs and incentives that you can utilize and help to increase your bottom line that way as well. We have basically there's no limits as far as the number of seats or number of extensions that we can have for our hosted provider customers, whether it's a single person through all the way up to SMB and enterprise customers. We really can service them all. We have enough bandwidth and experts here, support people to handle really any size deployments. And really when it gets right down to it, we want to help you grow your business as resellers. And, we can all be happy and realize our goals as far as business together. So there's a picture of my ugly mug there and my contact info on the right. As you see, I've been there for about 13 years. And you can see my direct contact info, phone number and email address there as well. And with that, I will let Abdel take over from here and start talking to you about the GDS. Whenever you're ready, go ahead and take it over.
All right, thank you, Joe, and thanks everyone for being here with us today. My name is Abdel Jaybar. I'm a support engineer here at Grandstream Networks in Boston. So in today's webinar, I will present the Grandstream IP door phone GDS3710, and I will explain its security features and how to configure them. So for today's agenda, I'm going to introduce the specs and features available on the GDS3710. Then we're going to talk about the deployment scenarios and how to install the GDS in your premises. Then I will describe the different access modes available using the GDS. And then we'll talk about few security application scenarios. I believe there are 5. And then right after the presentation, we're going to jump into the web interface of the GDS so I can show you how to configure certain features. To refresh every one of the specs and features supported by the GDS3710, it is a hemispheric IP video door phone with 180-degree view for monitoring wall-to-wall without blind spots. It supports the video codec H.264, which is widely used by many platforms. It is powered by an advanced ISP or image sensor processor, and it delivers a good performance in all lighting conditions thanks to the implemented WDR or wide dynamic range. WDR basically, this is how it works. When you have an image or a video stream where part of the image or video is too dark while the other part is too bright, WDR balances that lighting so you can get a better image and video with a better dispersed amount of light on the image. So this is an example that shows a comparison between hemispheric versus LDC or lens distortion correction, which is very useful, especially with the hemispheric and fisheye phones and cameras, because it helps straighten out the curving shapes of the image and the video. In terms of technical highlights, GDS3710 contains integrated PoE. And by the way, something that you need to pay attention here to is the GDS supports the standard 802.3AF class 3. So if you have a switch that provides the PoE with the other standard, which is 802.3AT, just be careful in case you noticed some issues like with LEDs lighting up or the GDS not booting up. It could be related to the switch using the other PoE standard, which is 802.AT. It has LEDs, HD loudspeaker, RFID card reader, motion detector, lighting control switch, alarm input, and 2 alarm output, and a lot more. Also, the GDS3710 features two-way audio and video streaming to smartphones and SIP phones, allowing you to receive calls from the GDS3710 on specific SIP extension when the doorbell is pressed. And this is something that I'm going to show you during the configuration. You can also use the remote phones to unlock the strike and initiate calls from the phone to the GDS and get a real-time audio and video stream. GDS is designed to be deployed indoor and outdoor, and it can operate in temperature ranges -30°C to 60°C. In Fahrenheit is -22 to 140 degrees. So when it comes to deploying the GDS3710, there are two different ways of using the GDS. The first one, as you can see in the picture, is peer-to-peer connection, which does not require the use of an IP PBX. And the second deployment scenario is SIP registration, which requires the use of an IP PBX. And we're going to explain each of these and when you need to use each mode. So for peer-to-peer connection, it can be implemented in a small environment when there is only one GDS installed and connected to a video phone, like the GXV, the Grandstream GXV video phones. And you can use the phones to monitor and control access to the premise or to the house or to the company building. So employees or family members that require daily access to the premise, they can be provided with RFID cards or fobs, or you can assign each user PIN numbers to get in. So while visitors need to press the doorbell button for the GDS to initiate the call to the phone, the person that receives the call on the phone, let's say a video phone, GXV phone, can unlock the door strike by simply pressing the open door icon, as you can see it in the slide, or they can enter the remote PIN to unlock the door from the phone. Again, this deployment scenario does not require an IP PBX. All you need is an Ethernet connection between the GDS and the video phone. You can also use the GXP 2100 phones, the color phones. Those phones, they're not video phones, but the way it works when you use the GDS with the GXP phone, the GDS is going to send 3 snapshot frames to the GXP phone every 2 seconds. So you're going to have action. You're going to see like things are streaming on the GXP phone, but that is not a video streaming. It's just like the GDS is sending like video, I would say snapshot frames to the GXP phone with the rate of 3 frames per 2 seconds. So in case you have multiple GDS devices and multiple SIP endpoints, SIP registration will be required, and then my PBX needs to be deployed in order to communicate between the different devices. For example, when you need to ring like a group of extension, which is a typical scenario, if someone presses the doorbell button, an IP PBX like the Grandstream UCM is required. You can also use GS Wave, the Grandstream free soft phone application that can be integrated with the GDS3710 using an IP PBX. And this application is available on both iOS and Android devices. It's very useful because it provides more mobility during security monitoring and increases connectivity to essential communications and real-time audio video streams, especially when you're not at home. And during the live demo later, I will use the SIP registration scenario to show you how you can configure that. So talking about the different access modes supported on the GDS, we have 2 types. We have independent access, which means the GDS, they can unlock the striker just by using the features available from the GDS. And we have 4 options. The users, they can be assigned, or each one will be given an RFID or a fob that they can use to scan on the GDS. So once they scan it, the GDS will send the current to the lock to unlock the door. The second option is create users and assign each one of them a private PIN that each one of them needs to use to unlock the door. The third option is you can assign one unified PIN to a group of users. And the example that I can think of is when you are like a family and you are 4 members in the family, you can just use one PIN number and you can assign the same PIN number to all users. And when you do that, just make sure when you go to the GDS, this is something that I'm going to show you later anyway, just make sure you set it to unified PIN. The fourth mode, which is more secure, is the use of PIN and card combination. And the way it works is you swipe the card, then the GDS will expect you to enter the PIN associated with that RFID card that was scanned. So this is a 2-factor authentication. It provides more security. So in case someone, for example, drops the RFID card and someone else with malicious intentions find the card, they will not be able to unlock the door without the use or without knowing the PIN number associated with that RFID card. So in terms of controlled access, there are also 4 ways how you can do it. There's the option, and all of them, by the way, before I start explaining each one of them, all of them can be configured with the schedule. For example, the doorbell button, you can configure a schedule when you can use it. You can tell the GDS, for example, the doorbell button can work only from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the same thing applies to motion detection. You can also configure it based on a schedule. So the first controlled access method is press the doorbell. Of course, you go to the GDS and you configure it to call one extension or group of extension, depending on how you want to have it deployed. And then the users, they can just use one phone or from any phone, just press the open door button, and then they can unlock the door, or they can just simply enter the DTMF or the remote PIN number. The second option is the use of alarm input, which is a door lock switch. You can use one of these devices and connect it to the alarm input in the GDS, so when every time someone presses the button, it's going to unlock the door. The third option is use the GDS as a SIP endpoint, so people from the GDS, they can dial a number, send, then the call will be sent to the UCM, sorry. Then the UCM will call the dialed extension. It could be one extension or group of extension, or it could be also a remote extension, like in case you are using GS Wave with the UCM. You can also configure motion detection based on the schedule and also based on the action alarm. So in case you have like an infrared sensor that detects motion, you can connect this tool to one of the alarm input in the GDS, and then you go to the GDS configuration and you have two options. Either to open the door, so every time there is activity, the GDS will open the door. That's one option. Or the second option, you can trigger an alarm action, which means whenever there's an activity at GDS, you can configure it to send you an email, to take snapshot, or just to call your extension or your phone number. So in terms of the alarm input, as I mentioned, the GDS comes with two alarm inputs. Most of the time, one of them is used with the door strike, and then you can use the second one with an infrared sensor, or you can use it with a door lock switch. And as I mentioned earlier, you can configure the input with two modes. You can use it to open the door, or the second one to trigger an alarm action, something that I'm going to show you in the next slides. For the alarm output, it comes also with two alarm outputs, and you can use it with a siren, or with a lighting control, or with an electric door strike. You can also configure that based on a schedule. So if there's, for example, any activity, or you have set up the alarm output based on a key combination or something like that, you can configure it with the schedule so that it can work only based on the specific time that you entered in the GDS configuration. In terms of electric strikes, when you try to use the electric strike with the GDS, there are two things that you need to pay attention to. There's the mode of the strike that you're going to purchase. Some of them, they call them fail-safe, and others like fail-secure. So for example, when you buy like a fail-secure, you should know that the lock will remain closed if power is off, and the fail-safe will get released if power is off. So you need to decide which one you actually need for your scenario. For example, if you are deploying the GDS in a bank, you definitely don't want to go with the fail-safe, because you don't want the locks of the bank to open when power goes off, like I would say during the weekend or in the middle of the night. So you wanna make sure you choose the right type of electric strike. And when you do that, and when it comes to wiring and how you can connect it to the GDS, you can always go to the Grandstream website. There are a lot of wiring diagram that shows you exactly how you can configure each type of electric strike with the GDS. So now let's talk about the security features, or what I call the security application scenarios. So the first example is the hostage code. The GDS can be configured with a hostage code. So in case someone is in danger or someone is holding a gun against you, instead of you using the regular PIN number that you enter to unlock the door, you can use that specific private PIN number to unlock the striker. And then you go to GDS and you configure a set of alarm actions. And you have 6 options. You can, for example, send an email, or you can call a SIP extension. And the way it works, when the GDS calls the SIP extension, it's going to play an alarm sound to tell you that something is wrong. So you can have access to your email, and then you can check the snapshots or the type of email that you received. This way you would know that someone had to open the door because he was held or she was held hostage to unlock the strike. The second application scenario is PIN error alert. So when people, they go to the GDS and they try to enter a combination of different PIN numbers to see which one is going to work, the GDS can be configured to send an alarm to you if someone tries to enter a PIN number and they fail more than 5 times. And as you can see in the slide, some of the alarm actions that you can configure is upload snapshot, alarm input, audio alarm, or send an email or audio alarm to SIP phone, or upload to alarm center when the GDS is integrated with another security system in your premises. The third security application is tamper-proof. So if a GDS is being tampered with, or someone is trying to put it off the wall, you can also configure an alarm action set for that specific event, because the UCM has some mechanism around it that triggers when someone is trying to put it off or someone is trying to damage it. The fourth security application scenario is motion detection. You can configure GDS with motion detection with up to 8 regions. I'm going to show you this during the live demo. And you can configure it, for example, to call a SIP extension like in the first example. So from the video phone, you can see exactly who is in front of the GDS. Or you can collect it as an alarm output to a siren. So if someone walks by during prohibited times, the GDS can send the signal to the siren or to an alarm to trigger the sound, so that people would know that someone is trying to get access to the premises. The fifth security application scenario is out of schedule access. You can configure GDS and tell GDS if someone tries to access the premises based on specific times, the GDS will send you an email. It will take snapshot, then it will email it to you, or it can send it to an FTP server if you have one available. This way, if someone tries to access, let's say, the building during the weekend where they're not supposed to, the GDS can send you an alarm about that one with a snapshot of the person who tried to access the premise. Last, we have the GDS Manager, which is a free software provided by Grandstream. This is useful in case you have multiple GDS devices and you want to manage them from one single point. You can use GDS Manager, because you know that GDS device, you can access the web interface of it and then you can manage it from the web interface. But when you have multiple GDSs deployed in let's say one building or one location, and you want to manage all of them from one management interface, that's when you need to use the GDS Manager. It's a free software. You just need to go to the Grandstream website and just download it. I'm going to show you later when I'm done with the web interface with the GDS. Excuse me, I'm going to show you how you can get access to the GDS Manager. So now I'm going to jump straight to the web interface of the GDS. So when you have the GDS installed and connected to your network, the GDS will automatically request an IP address from the DHCP server. After it gets an IP, there are several ways to get access to the web interface of the GDS, so you can start doing your configuration. So one of these options is you go to the DHCP client table, on your router and get the IP address based on the MAC address of the GDS. The second option is using UPnP, which is enabled by default on the GDS. So from your Windows computer running Windows, you can open the Windows Explorer, and then you go to Network, and then you go to Other Devices, and you look for the one, for example, my GDS is this one. So it takes me, just by double clicking on the device, it takes me straight to the web interface of the GDS. And if UPnP is disabled on the network, then you can use the third option, which is GS search. Let me go back here. So if you go to the Grandstream website, and then you go to Support, Tools, and then you look for GDS or GS search, which is this tool right here. You just download it, you run it, and it's going to detect all the GS devices in your network. And then from there, you can get the IP address based on the MAC address, and then you can go ahead and log on it. So this is my test unit that I'm going to use for today's webinar. So I'm going to try to log in. Oops. So the first thing that you need to do when you log into the GDS for the first time is go to System Settings and make sure you change the password, because all the GDS devices, they come with the unique password, and the password is written in the sticker on the back of the GDS. So make sure you change that password to a different password, and make sure you remember the password. And you can also configure an email. So in case you forget the password, you can just ask the GDS to send you an email. But if you do that, make sure that email settings are configured. If the email settings are not configured, there's no way you're going to get an IP address. I'm sorry, you're going to get an email on your email address. So the first thing we're going to do now after we change the password is assign an extension to the GDS in case it is used with an IP PBX. So in my example, I have the GDS assigned extension 1002 from my UCM, and it's showing online, which means it is registered. Then here you have the whitelist, which is a security feature. By default, it's disabled, but if you want to enable it, you can just check that box and start adding extension. The way it works, so this GDS has extension 1002. If I include 1005, that means, and I have that one enabled, only extension 1005 will be able to initiate a call to the GDS. So in case people are calling into the GDS and you want to disable that feature, enable whitelist and include only the extensions that are allowed to call into the GDS. Now we have the GDS registered to the IP PBX. The next thing is go to card management. So we want to add users to the database of the GDS. I have one user added here. You can add them manually just by scanning the card in the issuing mode of the GDS. Then this page will populate with all the users created by scanning those cards, or you can do it manually in case you don't have RFID cards. For example, if this is for Steve, I'm going to give Steve, and then I'm going to assign him a PIN number. ID, I can give him the same ID, for example, 2000, and the card, if you have a card number, just enter it right there. Then you have a virtual number and a SIP number. The difference between virtual number and SIP number is virtual numbers, you can use them in case you have a GDS deployed in a building, and each building has has apartments with specific numbers. So let's say you have apartment 23, I can use the virtual number as 23, and the extension associated with apartment 23 is 1006. So instead of telling the users what their extensions is, you can just simply use the apartment number. So people, when they stand in front of the door, they're just going to look for the apartment number and they can just dial it, and the GDS will call the SIP extension associated with that virtual number. So when you do that, make sure you enable and save. You can also do it based on a group schedule. So for example, because I don't have any group created, which you can do it right here. So you can create a group and you can assign them a schedule. If this is, if the GDS is deployed in a workplace, you can create like a schedule based on the office hours so that our people can use their PIN numbers only during the office time. So once you set that one, you just click on save, then you sync the information. So now that we have our users created, and we have a couple of them, next thing is go to basic settings of the door system. And some of the features here is snapshot when door is opened, which is a very nice feature. You can configure it to send it via email. So if I come to the GDS and then I press the doorbell button, someone opens the door, or if I enter my private PIN number, the GDS will take a capture, like 3 images of me at that moment. Then it's going to send it to me via email. If you have an FTP server, you can use FTP. And one thing, if you are using like a GXV phone, like GXV3710, this phone has an FTP application that you can run. So just go to the FTP application on the phone and make sure you run that one. You start it, and then you can use the IP address of the GXV as an FTP server. This is something that you need to do under email and FTP server. So the call mode, there are 2 modes. You can use SIP numbers. In this case, the GDS will become like SIP endpoint, like a phone, or you can use a virtual number as the example that I showed you earlier. If someone, for example, they want to call apartment 23, they just need to enter the apartment number, the virtual number, then the GDS will call the SIP extension associated with that number. Then enter number called when the doorbell is pressed. So what happens when you press the doorbell? You can send the call to a ring group, like if you have a ring group with extension 6400, or you can specify one extension. Let's say I just wanted to ring extension 1006, just include 1006. And by the way, the firmware version that I'm running on this GDS is a beta version. So you might see some stuff that is not yet available on the official one. And I'm going to show you some of the changes that have been included in the latest firmware. When it comes to remote PIN number to open the door, this is the PIN number that the users, so let's say that the users need to enter. So let's say you go to the GDS, you press the doorbell button, the phone rings, you pick up the handset. That's the DTMF or the PIN number that you need to enter in the phone to unlock the GDS remotely. We talked earlier about the different access modes. The first one is the private PIN number, which means users can use either their private PIN number to unlock the door, or they can use the RFID card to unlock the door. The second option is a unified PIN, which means use one PIN number for a group of people. This is less secure than the first one. And then we have card and private PIN, which is the most secure option. And that means that users, they need the card, swipe the card, and then after they swipe the card, they need to enter the PIN number before the GDS unlocks the door. So I'm just going to keep it as a private number. So in case you have like guests, I don't know, let's say like your office is holding a meeting from 8 to 3 for like 3 days, you can actually assign them a password, and then you can do it based on a schedule, just for these 2 days based on a schedule. So when these users, they come into the office, they can use that guest PIN number to enter into the premises. And after the 2 days are over, this is not going to work. So you can just come here and disable it or just leave it because the GDS is not going to use the guest PIN number anymore. So earlier I mentioned that you can use the GDS to scan all the cards so they can populate on the database of the GDS. So if you want to do that, you just need to start, click on start, then the GDS will turn into card issuing mode. So just the LED, by the way, is going to start blinking. So just go there and scan all the cards, and all the cards will be populated under card management. So when you're done, you can just go back and click on stop. So these are the most important settings that you're going to usually need to configure. So when you do that, just make sure you save and apply. Then if you have any alarm configurations that you would like to configure, make sure you configure the email settings first before you do that. So in case you are using a Gmail account, the Gmail server is, let me correct that one quickly. The Gmail SMTP server is smtp.gmail.com, and since we're going to be using SSL, that's going to be port 465. Then just enter your email, and then the same thing right here. This is just an example, and then you configure or you enter the password associated with that email. And then here you enter the destination email addresses. So when you configure an alarm action on the GDS is going to send the alarm notification to the email that you enter here. So for example, if you have XYZ as a destination, every time there's an alarm action, the GDS will send an email to this email address right here. So after you configure the email, then you can go back to the alarm settings, and then you can make the configuration that you need. So in case you would like to enable motion detection, you can set that one to yes, then configure the regions. Let's say only this region and only this device right here, these are the only things that I would like to enable motion detection on these devices. You can select it. So if someone, for example, is moving the chair, it's not going to trigger the motion detection alarm, only for these two regions. And you can create up to 8 regions. So for example, if this cable is important to you, you can add another region. You have up to 8. And when you do that, then you can configure it based on a schedule. You can do it all day, or you can create a specific schedule. Then you can create a profile. Right now, I don't have any profile created, but you can do that under alarm action settings. So I'm going to go back here quickly so I can show you the options that are available. So let's say I'm going to use this profile for motion detection. I can name it motion detection, and I can tell the GDS upload snapshot and send me an email. So these are the 2 notifications that I would like. If there is a motion detection, then save and apply, and then I can go back here to motion detection and choose motion detection as the profile. These are the input digits. So in case you have like a door lock strike, door lock switch, these are the 2 options that you can configure. So for example, if you want to use this to open the door, just choose open the door, and you can specify the time, or normal close. So these are the 2 options, whether to close it or to lock it, but usually you're going to use it for normal open. So once you press the door switch, it's going to unlock the door. And then you can add another one, for example, alarm input, in case you are using an infrared detection, and you can do it based on a schedule. I can create a schedule for that one, for example, only business hours, and then I can create another profile the same way I did it with motion detection. I can use, for example, profile 2, then I can choose the set of alarm actions that I would like to enable for the alarm input. Then we have those security applications that I mentioned during the presentation, which is a hostage code. So when you enable that one, you can create also profile. You can use, for example, profile 6 or 4 or 3. Then you configure the set of notifications that you would like them to apply. Then right here, this is where you enter that specific hostage code that the user can enter on the GDS to trigger the notification. Then you have the enable temporal alarm, which is basically the same thing. Just enable that one and configure it with a profile. And then you have the enable alarm for pin input error. If someone is trying different combinations and they fail after the 5th attempt, the GDS is going to send an email notification or take snapshot based on the elements that you have configured on the GDS or the alarm set action. And the last one, we have the non-scheduled access alarm. If someone is trying to access the building during out of office time and you have that one configured on the GDS, then you can tell the UCM, for example, to use profile 10. You have up to 10 profiles, so you can create one profile for different security scenario, or you can use one same profile for all of them. So you have a lot of options, a lot of flexible options that you can choose from. And I think that's pretty much it. There are a lot of things to cover, but because of time, we don't have time to go through everything. So the next thing I would like to show you is the GDS Manager. GDS Manager, you can go to, let me just filter here. GDS Manager, just go to Grandstream website, support tool, and then download the GDS Manager. So when you download it, you will download two files. One of them is GDS Server, and the other one is GDS Manager. So when you have both of them downloaded, make sure you run the GDS Server first. And then when you do that, then you can go back again and click on GDS Manager. So it's the same 137, so I'm going to enter 137, then log in. So this is the interface of the GDS Manager. You have multiple options here, especially attendance management, which is not available from the web interface of the GDS device. But right here, this is where you the real-time view. You can add multiple GDSs to this interface, and then you can monitor them from here. For example, if you have 4 GDSs, you can enable 4 windows right here. So the GDS can show you the 4 video streaming from the 4 devices, plus many other options. If you go to the Grandstream, there is a user guide that explains to you exactly how you can use these tools so you can take advantage of all the available settings. So I think that's it for this presentation. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to submit them in the Q&A area, and we will have some time to answer all your questions.
Okay, yeah, I do have a couple here, Abdel. And I'll
Yes.
just read it off here. It says, when using the GS Wave app for the doorbell feature, there are too many options for intercom usage. What I mean by that is if there could be an intercom-only version of the GS Wave app, so we can use this as a video intercom replacement with an app. We do not want the intercom app to have any phone features, only be able to receive and make a call to the intercom units. We're going to hide the residents or tenants from each other.
No, this is actually like for me, I'm looking at it as a feature request, you know, because he's requesting to add some stuff to GS Wave. So we can make it work the way he describes it. We will take this into consideration. I'm going to forward whatever you included in the question to the GS Wave team so they can look at it and see if there is a way to implement it, or just include a feature where you can do all the stuff that you mentioned.
Okay, and there's a follow-up to that also. It says, also, is there a way to trigger a weekend event to open the door instead of a relay closure? This is needed where we want a WEGAN code to be sent to the existing access control system. Then it would be much more secure, where if the unit is ripped off, the way you cannot short out the door relay wires to open the door. Also, the WEGAN event would be programmed into the access control to open the door or not open the door.
Yeah,
So
I
I guess-
see what he's saying. Yeah, he's right. Because right now, based on the current design of the GDS, the relay is built into the GDS. Something that I saw the GDS team working on is come up with a new relay, which means the GDS is not going to become the relay, so you're going to connect it to a small device that you can put inside the premises. So if someone pulls the GDS and they have access to those cables, they still will not be they will still not be able to trigger the circuits to unlock the door. This is a good point. I agree with you, but this is something that we're aware of, and hopefully it's going to be fixed or included in the near future.
Okay, great. Yeah, those are the only two questions that came through at this point. So I guess we can shut it down from here. I want to thank everybody for sticking with us here today. We will be sending out copies of the webinar to everybody that attended here today. Also answers to the questions. So again, thanks everybody for coming out and joining us today. And we will send out a copy of this webinar within the next couple of days from our marketing team. With that, we will close it down for the day. And everyone, thanks again for joining us. And again, contact us here at VoIP Supply if there's any further questions or needs in regards to Grandstream or anything else we might be able to help with. Have a great day, everyone.